Haribol, namaste. Welcome to the first Bhagavad Gita class for a number of months. We're going to be resuming at chapter 9, where we were in chapter 5, and we're up to text 19. So I'll just chant for a bit first. Namo Vishnu-padaya Krishna-pastaya Bhutale Srimati Sirasarupananda Paramahansa Iti Namine Namo Vishnu-padaya Krishna-pastaya Bhutale Srimati Sirasarupananda Paramahansa Iti Namine Namo Sirasarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Namo Sirasarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Vistayate Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Vicharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachare Satarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavade Paskachare Satarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Asariko Bhakta-vrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Asariko Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Sachi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nityananda Goranga Goranga Nityananda Nityananda Goranga Goranga Nityananda Nityananda Goranga Goranga Radha Krishna Vrindavan 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 Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajika Satara Sadashishima Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajika Satara Sadashishima His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Nitai Goswal Mission Ki Jai Navadvita Dhamma Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathuradam Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Bol. Before speaking, first I offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and are full of compassion upon them. Haribol, namaste. Thank you for watching now or watching later, if you watch it on YouTube or Facebook. I have like this, had a bit of a break. I went to Australia. I was down in Australia for like 5 or 6 weeks, and then my wife and daughter and grandson were here for 6 weeks, and so that was pretty chaotic. So I had a bit of a longer break than what I was planning on. So we've been studying Bhagavad Gita, the beautiful song of Shri Krishna, or Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, who's full van with bhagas or opulences. So Bhagavad Gita is the hymn or song. Gita is hymn or song of Sri Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, speaking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to his friend, brother-in-law, cousin, and devotee, Arjuna. Arjuna, of course, became very distraught on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, seeing on the battlefield all his esteemed elder family members, Grandfather Bhishma Dev, Drona Acharya, Kripa Acharya, his cousin brothers headed by Duryodhana, his brothers, Maharaj Yudhisthira, Bhima, and the twins Nakula and Sahadev, along with many other family members. And he was, realizing he was going to be in a situation where he was going to be having to kill family members were going to be killed by others, and he was pondering upon and reflecting upon all the adverse consequences that are going to come from this massive battle. So in reflecting upon it, he became distraught. Ended up throwing down his bow and arrows, holding his head in his hands, crying. His mouth was burning, his limbs are shaking, his hair is standing on end, and so on. And finally he turns to Krishna, asking him to please tell him what is most auspicious. Shreya, Makshreya, Shan, Nishitam, Bruhitan, Me, Sishis Te Aham, Sharimam Tvam Prapanam. So, please tell me, Krishna, dear Krishna, please, I'm overcome by weakness, Kripanya, Dosa Pahata Swabhavaha, Pichami Tvam Dhamma Samuri Shaitaha. He's confused about his dharma, or his religious duty, what he should be doing in this situation. And, he's considering, should he fight or not fight? And, finally, after sort of arguing with Krishna, finally he turns to Krishna and surrenders, saying, Sishis te aham sharimam tvam prapanam. So now I am a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Sishya means disciple. Now I am a disciple. Please instruct me. I don't know what to do. What should I do in this situation? So anyway, this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 7. So this is like the turning point in the Bhagavad Gita, where then Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, appearing in human form, visible before our eyes here in this material dimension, was acting as Arjuna's chariot driver. And so Arjuna turns to Krishna and asks him to please instruct him. And this begins the world-famous, well-known discourse of the Bhagavad Gita. So, largely in the initial chapters of Bhagavad Gita, beginning from about text 39 of chapter 2 and pretty much up until, where we're up to, Krishna has been describing karma yoga. So yoga, of course, means to achieve union with the Supreme Lord, with the Supreme, and karma means action, so action yoga. And Krishna also at one point called it Buddhi Yoga. Sometimes he's Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. But essentially Karma Yoga means to engage in action that is linking oneself up with the Supreme. So this means, action with the physical body, engaging in different activities. And generally this is engaging in activities in accordance with one's situation within the Varnashrama system. The Varnas meaning the four broad occupational groups in society. The Brahmanas, the the priests and intellectuals who are like the instructors, the kshatriyas, or the warriors or protectors, the vaishyas, or the business people, and farmers, merchants, and then the shudras, the workers. So these are the different types, 4 broad types. Within these types there's various sub jatis are known as occupational duties, but there's these various broad classifications of people based upon, Krishna describes in chapter 4, based upon qualities and work. So of course this varna system is broken down over time in India to become based upon birth, a caste system. That however you're born, that's your caste, and you can't get out of it. And perhaps if you're fortunate in a future life, you'll gradually become elevated through the different varnas. But this is not how Krishna describes varna. Krishna describes the chaito varnas, the 4 varnas, as being based upon guna and karma, so quality and work. So according to a person's mentality, and also their work, what they're actually doing. Right? And ashramas is the different statuses of life, the spiritual ashrams or statuses of life. As a student, a celibate student, brahmachari, a grihastha, a householder. So following student life, one gets married. As one grows older, one then takes to the forest, engages in meditation and prepares for death. And in some circumstances, people take sannyas or become renunciates. These are like the 4 ashrams. And so these, the idea of this system is the occupational duties combined with the ashrams is to gradually elevate a person throughout the course of their life. So like a person begins as a student, as they reach, become a little older, then they want to get married, they want to have a family, they want to have, it's like a license for restricted sense gratification, for sexual enjoyment, essentially. Then as the children grow older, well then become adults, have their own children, then it becomes a time of retirement. Like in the West we call it retirement. This is seen as, retirement is seen as like a, opportunity to enjoy life, go and travel and play golf, activities like this. In the Vedic system, vanaprastha is more or less kind of a type of return to student life, where in student life one is studying under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, a guru, learning about spiritual life, and of course one also learns practical duties. So vanaprastha is like a return to that. Again, preparing for death. Death is coming. When you're young and a student, you don't think about death much. And when you're in, and then when you're a little older, you just want to get married. You're not, death is a long way off, or so we think. But then once we hit 50 plus, well then it's like, no, we start becoming a bit more aware. Hey, I'm starting to wind down. Maybe my parents die, sometime around this point or over the next decade or so. And so we start to become a lot more appreciative of the fact that, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to die too. So anyway, this is essentially, and this system, as I was describing there, is created by Krishna. This Chaitovana system and this ashrama system is described in the Vedic literatures. This is created by Krishna. This is his system. This is like civilized society. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram system, in farm communities, with his simple living, high thinking, and he would establish a society based on these Varnashrama systems that would be an example for others. And so anyway, so following this system, this is Krishna's system, he's created it. And so, and along with this this Varnashram system, so following it is actually karma yoga. And that can be whether one's a devotee of Krishna or not, just by these varnas and ashramas worldwide. One can be a devotee of Krishna or one could be a Christian, but what generally one is, has a particular occupational duty according to their qualities and work, and one has a particular ashram or situation in life based upon whether they're a student or whether they're married or whether they're now retired or whether in certain rare instances they become a renunciate. So this is Krishna's system. So this is karma yoga. Following this system and participating in this system, being a responsible member of society, and so on. This is Krishna's system. So this is karma yoga, or one type of karma yoga. So within the Vedic system, this concept, the similar concept of Varnashram, or Dharma is called Varnashram Dharma. So this concept of Dharma is about responsibility and obligations, duties. So Arjuna's standing there on the battlefield, and he has, as he says to Krishna in chapter 2, text 7, I'm confused about my duty. I'm confused about my dharma. What should I do in this situation? That's because sometimes a person's dharma or obligations or duties are conflicting. This was the situation Arjuna found himself in. He's a kshatriya. He has a duty to protect, and he's fighting. The war is a righteous cause. The Pandavas, Arjuna and his brothers, are being, mistreated and abused. Being cheated out of the kingdom, along with various other, unfair treatment and poor treatment of the citizenry in general by Duryodhana and his brothers under Dhritarashtra, their father. So, Arjuna has his obligation to his elder brother, Maharaj Yudhisthira and Bhima and Nakula and Sahadeva, his brothers who are there on the battlefield. As I've described, many times in these Bhagavad Gita classes, if you've been watching them over time, that on the battlefield of Kurukshetra there's 18 Akshauhini divisions. There's 11 on the side of the Kurus, or under the leadership of Duryodhana, and then there is 7 on the side of the Pandavas. And so 11 to 7, this is, unbalanced. The Kurus have a decided numerical advantage, as well as having a whole lot of really good fighters. And now Arjuna is a fantastic warrior. So Arjuna is kind of balancing the scales. And so his brothers and Maharaj Yudhisthira are depending upon Arjuna. They need Arjuna in this fight. And Arjuna has an obligation, a dharmic obligation to fight on behalf of his brothers. Secondly, his wife Draupadi's been, attempted to be stripped naked in an assembly of men in a gambling hall, and she's, which is a terrible thing, and she's extremely upset about it, and essentially wants revenge. And so Arjuna has an obligation to her. They were cheated out of the kingdom. They were sent by, in the gambling match, it was cheating, and they were banished to the forest for 12 years, and they had to spend a year incognito. At different times, the Duryodhana's attempted one time to burn them in a palace of shellac or wax. Tried to assassinate them. They tried to assassinate Bhima by poisoning him. They tried to steal Draupadi at this assembly. And now and they've stolen their kingdom, and now they're attacking with deadly weapons. So in one of the purports in the chapter 1, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada describes 5 situations in which it's appropriate to fight back and, or to kill. And so these are the 5 situations: the stealing of the wife, poisoning, attacking with deadly weapons, stealing, and whatever the 5th one is. Anyway, I described the 5 earlier. So, this is a righteous fight. It's a dharmic fight. And according to the Vedic system, one fighting on the battlefield goes to the heavenly planets. If you die fighting in die on the battlefield, then you go to the heavenly planets. So anyway, so for many different ways, it's a righteous activity in accordance with Arjuna's specific dharma as a kshatriya, with his obligations and duties to his family members. And it's also, but then on the opposing side, he has his Pitamaha, his grandfather Bhishma, and his military teacher, Dronacharya. And so to fight against them, Arjuna is feeling this tremendous conflict. The Vedic system is very much based upon offering respect to elders, particularly one's teachers, to one's grandparents, to go against their wishes, and what to speak of, actually fight with them and attempt to kill them. This is considered, completely adharma, non-dharmic, right? Against the rules of dharma. So this is why Arjuna is so confused. So anyway, this is a little bit of background on the idea of Karma Yoga and Dharma, and what the background is to this conversation of Bhagavad Gita. So between Krishna and Arjuna. So anyway, Krishna expands upon the idea of Karma Yoga throughout a fair section of chapter 2. A whole chapter 3 is essentially dedicated to Karma Yoga. A lot at the beginning of chapter 4, Krishna, in response to a question from Arjuna, begins to describe his own transcendental nature and how he can remember past lives but Arjuna can't, and how someone who knows Krishna's transcendental activity and birth does not take birth again. And and then this is in chapter 4, in that sequence of verses close to the start. It's like Krishna revealing who he is, and Krishna also describing the parampara system of receiving knowledge through descending knowledge through realized souls. Parampara means one after another. So Krishna describes that, and then again returns to speaking about Karma Yoga. That one should, and so within included within Karma Yoga is the idea of sacrifice or yajna, tyaga, renunciation. So non-attachment to the results is essentially the basic principle of Karma Yoga. I'm doing it because it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do. This is the proper way to behave, right? In accordance with the Vedic literatures, in accordance with the instructions of God. So this is Karma Yoga. So I perform my duty without attachment to the results. It's the right thing to do, so I do it. It may or may not come out successful, but that's not up to me. My duty is to do my best and to fulfill my duties and obligations according to my situation and status in life. And so this Karma Yoga, how it is like one of the steps leading up to Bhakti Yoga. So in Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti means love, right? Loving devotion. So in Bhakti Yoga, Karma yoga becomes bhakti yoga when one is acting out of love for Krishna. Spiritual love on a transcendental platform. Actual love for Krishna. This is bhakti. So one may still be performing one's duties, whereas in karma yoga one is sort of doing it out of a sense of duty or obligation, or realizing this is my dharma, this is what I should be doing. There's not love there. So karma yoga becomes transformed into bhakti when there's love for Krishna. So this is the essential difference. Another concept aside from detachment, detachment or giving up the results, is also equanimity, samatvam, being equal in happiness and distress. Krishna describes this very early on in Bhagavad Gita in his first instructions to Arjuna, in text 14, his first teachings to Arjuna. He sets out matraspasas tu kantaya sitoshna sukhadukkha daha, be equal in happiness and distress. It's just like the coming and goings of the winter and summer seasons. So one should be equal. These are some of the basic principles actually of yoga in general, but of karma yoga specifically. So, this, to be able to act in karma yoga, one needs a certain amount of knowledge, right? To be not attached to the results. It's not enough to just be like, oh, well, I'm not going to be attached to the results because it's my duty obligation. It's like, how does this detachment come about? It comes about through understanding our spiritual identity, understanding that I'm Atman, or the spirit soul, spiritual in essence. This is my my essence. Srila Prabhupada is very authoritatively and scientifically described the science of identity. The science of identity, the first thing is appreciation and realization of my essence, that I'm spiritual in nature, that I'm not this body, I'm not this gross physical body, I'm not this subtle material body, that I continue to exist after this body dies. I'm spiritual in essence, as Krishna says in early on in Bhagavad Gita, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, and never in the future shall any of us cease to be. Na tveva ham jatu nasam, na tvam nimi jana dipaha, na chaiva na bhavisyamaha, save vaya mata param. So, I think it's text 13 of chapter 2. So, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these others on the battlefield. So that's everyone. That's Krishna, that's Arjuna, and everyone else. Never was there a time when we did not exist, and never will there be a time in the future when we don't exist. And Krishna later, another verse, text 20, says, Nahanyate nahanyamani sarire. The soul is not slain when the body is slain. So this is like, so this sort of foundational understanding of that I'm not the body, that I'm spiritual in essence, that I'm Brahman. This is the Aham Brahmasmi. I'm Brahman. I'm spirit. This is like the understanding on which one can engage in karma yoga. So there's some knowledge there. And in chapter 4, Krishna describes more or different ways to attain spiritual or transcendental knowledge and the glories of it. And ultimately, like in the famous verse, text 34, Krishna says, if you want to know more, then approach a bona fide spiritual master, tatvadashinaha, someone who's seen the truth. Approach in a mood of rendering service, humility, and submissive inquiry. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprajnena sevaya. So approach a tattvadarshinaha, someone who's seen the truth, and they can teach you the truth because they've seen the truth. They know the truth. They can initiate you into this transcendental knowledge. Then Krishna proceeds to describe the glories of this transcendental knowledge. And we spoke for several weeks on these different verses about how one can cross over the ocean, the material ocean, in the boat of transcendental knowledge, and how it acts as a fire, burning up one's simple reactions. So also in this chapter 4, Krishna described action and inaction, and he described that one can be, even though one may be physically inactive, one may be engaging in action, or one could be engaging in action but actually be inactive. In other words, of course, if one is engaged in karma yoga for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, well then there's actually no karma resulting from it. So this is the action, inaction within action. And then one may be a renunciate, but because one is falsely renouncing the world and walking away from one's obligations and duties, and mentally still being engaged in thinking of sense gratification, then even though you may appear to be inactive, actually you're being active and creating reactions as a result of your inaction. So anyway, by the time we get to chapter 5, Arjuna is a bit confused. He's not quite clear. He's not quite sure. And this was the case at the beginning of chapter 3. He was not quite sure of what he should be doing, and he's asking Krishna, please tell me. Again, he's bringing up, so tell me what is Shreyas, what is most auspicious. And this is auspiciousness for the long term, not just based on what I should do right now, but what is the best thing for me to do, considering the whole situation. And so, Arjuna asked this question beginning of chapter 3. Krishna described at length the glories of performing one's duty, karma yoga. And then in chapter 4, Krishna has again described karma yoga a bit more philosophically, and also described the glories of knowledge, and then also sort of discussed how action and inaction, what I was just describing, that there can be action and inaction and action. So as at the beginning of chapter 5, Arjuna is a bit confused again, and again he's asking, well, what's the most auspicious thing? What should I be doing? What is Shreyas? What should I be doing? First of all, you're telling me I should act, and then you're telling me I shouldn't act. In other words, you're a bit confused about this inaction, action, and inaction. And Krishna's talking about the glories of transcendental knowledge, that it's like a boat one can be in to cross over the ocean of material misery. And so Arjuna is a bit like, Krishna, you want me to just study transcendental knowledge, or do you want me to act? What is it you want me to do? He's just not sure. So then, once again in the beginning verses, Krishna again describes how that karma yoga is the best, engaging in action. This is much better than renunciation or being inactive, than sannyas yoga. Krishna described it as, which was a new term, and he also described it as Sankhya, or Sankhya is, as taught in Srimad Bhagavatam by Kapila, the empowered incarnation of Krishna, is describing it's like analysis of the material world. So in other words, it's like a philosophical process. Analysis of the material world, and ultimately identifying that the soul is different from the body, and ultimately also the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. So anyway, Krishna says, no, these are all actually the same. There's no difference between Sankhya and Karma. They're all paths leading to the absolute truth. But but of them, they're the same path, but karma is the safer path, because to sit around and just philosophize or be inactive is very difficult. By nature we want to be active, so we should engage in karma yoga, acting in accordance with Krishna's instructions. And ultimately, as Bhagavad Gita develops, Krishna then ultimately describes that one should engage in action, just surrender to him. This is like the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita 1866. Savadhamam prityaja mamekam saranam braja. Just abandon all varieties of Dharma. In other words, like I've spent all this time here talking about Karma Yoga, and of course Krishna talks about Karma Yoga at great length throughout the Bhagavad Gita, and he discusses different kinds of Karma Yoga, and we're coming up soon to chapter 6 where Krishna describes meditational yoga, dhyana and so on, meditational yoga, sitting in an isolated place and sitting on deer skin and with one's eyes closed, concentrating on the tip of the nose, and generally, which Arjuna says to Krishna, wow, this is just way too hard, there's no way I can do this, So anyway, at the end of, which is very much our situation, but at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, just surrender unto me. Abandon all varieties of Dharma or religion. Essentially more or less, just forget about everything I've been saying and just surrender unto me. And don't worry, masuchaha, don't worry, don't fear, I shall protect you from all sinful reaction. This is, of course, Arjuna's original fear, that if he engages in this warfare, he's going to be killing people, and this is going to be bad for the people he kills, and it's going to be bad for their families, their wives and their children. Now the women are going to become widows. Men are going to take advantage of them. They're going to engage in illicit sex. There's going to be unwanted children as a result, Vana Shankara. And these Vana Shankara, fatherless children, are going to create a disturbance in society. And, this is going to, break down the family system. And the family system is like the bedrock of Vedic society, the bedrock of society. The family is like a wonderful institution, right? It provides protection for women and children and elders and so on. It's like this wonderful system. So Arjuna is realizing, wow, it's all going to get smashed into smithereens as a result of killing millions of people in this battle. It's going to create a whole bunch of dysfunction within society. Arjuna is thinking this is going to be sinful. He even says to Krishna, hey, I've heard through disciplic succession that those who engage in these kind of activities, killing respectable elders, reside in hell. So, heck, Arjuna is saying, I'm going to go to hell. In other words, he's going to engage in sinful activities, and this is going to result in him going to hell. So, but Krishna at the end, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita says, firstly he says, just think of me, become manmana bhava madbhakta, it's 1865 and also 934, just think of me and become my devotee, or just love me. Ajyaji mam namaskuru, offer your obeisances unto me, offer your worship and homage unto me. This is, then you will come to me. This is like Krishna's promise to Arjuna and to us. Just think of him, become his devotee, develop our love for Krishna, offer our homage and our obeisances to him, our worship, and then we will come to him. In fact, Krishna even says, he promises this. I promise you this, Arjuna. This is Krishna's promise to us. And then in the 1866, Krishna says, just abandon all varieties of religion, of dharma, duty, obligation. Just love me, abandon everything else,
be my devotee, and one-pointedly, mamikam saranam braja. Eka means one. Be one-pointedly, just serve me, surrender unto me. So this is, and I shall protect you from all sinful reaction. You know what Arjuna was worried about. And Masucha, don't worry. So this is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So as we study these earlier chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and in fact as we study all of Bhagavad Gita, we need to appreciate the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. It's a little bit like you need to understand the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita to actually understand the beginning and the middle and the end portions of Bhagavad Gita. We need to understand what's really important, what's Krishna's key point here in Bhagavad Gita, and of course also within what's known as the Chaitanya Shloki in verses 10.8 to 10.11, Krishna states the again becoming his devotee in these Chaitanya Shloki verses. And in 934, which again is repeated in 1865, this idea of just think of me and become my devotee, man madabhava mad bhakto. In fact, in 934 and 1865, the verses are almost identical. 2.5 of the padas out of the 4 padas of the verse, pada means like quarter line, they're identical. So in the middle and at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, so this idea is being emphasized by Krishna. And so we need to understand that this is the essence and the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So as we're reading these earlier chapters, particularly chapter 5 and chapter 6, there's not really a lot of discussion about devotion for Krishna or bhakti. It's more about Brahman and liberation, mukti, and Brahma nirvana. Nirvana. So this is described, in fact the words Brahma nirvanam are used by Krishna 3 times in this 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So this Brahma nirvana to a Vaishnava means to be, to become liberated and engage in devotional service. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Krishna emphasizes that first one must come to the platform of Brahman, Brahma Buddha Prasanatma, one who becomes Brahman realized, becomes very joyful, and he becomes very not disturbed and not elated. So in other words, this idea of equanimity, equal in happiness and distress, na sochiti na kankshati, then sama saveshu bhuteshu, equal to all living entities, all bhutas, entities. And then mad bhaktim labhate param, then one can enter into the supreme, into devotional service. Right? So we have to come to this sort of platform of Brahman. So anyway, in this 5th chapter, before we can actually, in other words, Brahman realized means understanding I am spiritual in essence, so realization of my true identity. This is liberating. Sometimes the term jivan mukta is used, right? Jiva is the living entity, mukta, liberation. So what is this liberation? It's understanding aham brahmasmi, I'm spiritual in essence. This is like the sort of a foundational beginning of spiritual life. So very much this 5th chapter is talking about this kind of concept. So, but we need to understand how that fits into the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So anyway, I guess that was a bit of a long-winded background to where we are in chapter 5. And so next week I'll actually discuss the verse, and I'll promise to restrain myself and not give a whole overview of Bhagavad Gita again. So anyway, so thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on Bhagavad Gita, the beautiful song of Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Obo, namaste. Thank you very much. Krishna.